Many B2B founders think it takes days or even weeks to come up with a really good, precise ICP. But the truth is, in 2026, you can build a laser-targeted ICP in less than 15 minutes using AI. Hey, welcome back to the Strategy Room, where founders come to learn, think, plan, and improve growth. I'm Lillian Pierson, a fractional CMO and GTM engineer for tech startups. And today I'm going to be talking about my 3-step AI system for building a precision ICP. The problem with ICPs at many of the early stage startups I've worked with is I come in and either they don't have an ICP at all, or the definition of the ICP is so high level, so vague that it's not actually helping, it's not working in the way that it should. So if your ICP is something like mid-market SaaS, 50 to 200 employees, North America, that statement is way too vague to do the job it needs to do. Why? Because if you hand that ICP to your sales team, that is too broad for them to use it for their targeting and their sales messaging and their outreach. If you hand it to the marketing team, they can't build a good messaging framework or any good awareness campaigns based on something so broad. When you have an ICP statement that is so high level, and it is not a great basis for AI native growth systems as well. It doesn't lend itself to structured intelligence. Okay, so before going into the AI prompts, let's just look at what is a viable ICP. So a viable ICP documents industry, persona, and pain points. So basically what you're doing is you're building a pain qualified segment. You're defining what that segment is so that you can target the individuals within that segment and also build systems and frameworks to execute to reach that ICP and convert them to customers. Unfortunately, according to Gartner, only 42% of startups actually have a formally documented ICP, and then of those startups that do have one, they are only revisiting it, say, once per year, which just isn't enough with as quick as technology and the market is changing. And then here is what the data shows in terms of startups that get their ICP right. According to HubSpot B2B benchmarks, these startups are seeing 68% faster deals, 208% more marketing attributed revenue, and 50% lower cost of customer acquisition. So instead of just trying to explain to you how I build a precision ICP, I'm actually going to show you inside of the prompts that I use to execute this with AI. And then if you would like to have these prompts for yourself, you can just download them. I'll leave a link in the description below. But the first step is deep research. So we are going to use OpenAI for that deep research. And we're going to be looking at market landscape. Here, I'll just open it up. You can see that, but let's just look at it inside here. So here's step 1, deep market research. Here's our research prompt, but we're going to be basically analyzing your company, the market landscape, the value proposition, competitive intelligence, and go-to-market challenges, and then generating structured output. Okay, and then we have some quality control requirements for step 1, because step 1 is actually the foundation for step 2, the TAM map. That is essentially how you would do deep research in order to build a market analysis report. And then with these findings, you're going to see things like the early adopters versus the laggards in your market, the real budget ranges, any regulatory dynamics that may be at play that you need to be aware of before going to market or while going to market, and basically switch costs and what makes buyers switch from competitors to your product. Next, we move into step 2, which is TAM mapping, and I like to use Claude for that with extended thinking enabled. Let's look at that in the prompt pack here. Okay, step 2, TAM mapping, Claude extended thinking. So as you see, we're building a comprehensive TAM map, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be mapping each industry and sub-industry segment to basically identify which of these is the most viable. So we're going to look at things like market size, how many companies fit that market size, solution fit, your product solve the pain points of people in that segment, sales cycle efficiency, how fast those people buy, and then deal value, what's a closed deal worth, and then lastly, market education. And we're looking at, basically, you don't want to pick a segment or an ICP where you have to educate them about the problem or even the solution. You want someone who's actually solution aware, not just problem aware. So these factors, I use this TAM mapping prompt. It also gives us details about budget authority, decision timeline. And then for each qualified industry segment, we're looking at the challenges and, as I said, the buying triggers, as well as technology maturity, because that's relevant to a lot of my customers as tech startups. And then from those, we're prioritizing the sub-segments. We're trying to find the best of the best who we could target. And then for the top 10 segments, we are going to estimate the number of qualified companies in that segment, the average potential deal size, market penetration, timelines, and revenue opportunity over 24 months when we actually have executed this. Okay, here is the deep market research report. You're going to get something that looks like this with all sources and citations available. So, okay, this is pretty thorough, as you can see, right? And then we have TAM mapping. Now this is what is the output of step 2. We're getting our top-down category TAM and then basically industry segmentation map. Like, what are the top segments we should be targeting with our solution based on current state solution and market needs? Okay, so I'm not going to go into full detail there, but you can see. And then the rest of the segments, you can just let those go because they're not ideal for your product or service. And yeah, again, if you want this prompt pack here, you can just grab that in the description below so you don't have to retype all of this. So step 3, the ICP. And what we're going to be doing with this step is also using Claude extended thinking. And we're going to be identifying the economic buyer who has the purchasing, who makes the purchasing decision, has the purchasing power, and what their pain point is, and then champions within the organization, people that can help influence the purchasing decision maker, as well as technical evaluators. Looking each of these different buyer personas, we're going to be looking directly at their pain points because that definitely influences the messaging we need to use to build awareness and convert these different personas. So going over here to the ICP modeling, we just have essentially an ICP development prompt, and it again feeds off of step 2 outputs. So you would take step 2 outputs and then paste them in here, as well as this is an onboarding form, but basically you need to have some documentation about your company that you put in there. Right? And then you get a demographic profile, a psychographic profile, pain point analysis, buying behavior, and then the pain qualified segments. So who are the segments within the ICP and what drives them to make purchases? And then we're going to be prioritizing among those segments in order to find the best segments within the ICP to target. The output, of course, is a detailed persona profiles with pain point mapping and messaging angles. Let's look here, ICP validation. So segment 1 is IT services firms here, and then you can see we have a demographic. The persona that I would be going after would be the founder CEO. They have all the purchasing power, so looking at, you get back the demographics, the psychographics, the pain points, and the buying behavior. And then if you have her doing enterprise sales or longer cycle, then you can then go after personas B and C to try and influence and quicken the time to close. And then you get the next segment, which is prioritized as the second easiest to convert. But essentially what you're getting is you're getting the 9 personas and industry combinations. 1 afternoon to build? No, it takes like 10 minutes. And then it can decrease your sales cycle by at least 3 weeks. So this is a really powerful approach. Per Zoom info in Autobound, partners who are effectively partnering with AI are seeing results like being 3.7 times more likely to hit their quota. And it's estimated that by 2027, 95% of seller research will be done by AI, which is up from actually just 20% in 2024. So the thing is, the time to build this advantage is now, because without it, you're going to see the typical type of results that early stage startups are known to experience, like their sales teams spending time and budget chasing the wrong accounts, marketing that basically doesn't convert. And in both of these cases, the sales and revenue are going to stay unpredictable. So my point is that ICP is very, very important. When you have a very crystal clear ICP, like you will have when you download the prompt pack and run it on your machine, then you will have a sales team who knows who to call and exactly what to say to get the sale. You're going to have a marketing team that knows what to prioritize, and you're going to stop burning budget on low probability accounts. The one thing I want to note here is it's really, really important, especially if you're a tech startup founder, to be updating and refreshing your ICP on a quarterly basis, just because the product and your market are evolving so quickly these days. But it's really important to your product market fit and maintaining that you keep a very up-to-date ICP. And that is how I build a viable precision ICP in 15 minutes or less. I also built a free AI native growth assessment. And if you would like to see where you stack up in terms of how AI native your growth function is compared to other startups, you can go ahead and go over to my website and take that assessment. It takes about 5 minutes, and it will also show you basically whether your ICP is solid enough, if it's defined enough, and also which GTM gaps are costing you the most today. So if you're really interested in understanding how AI native your GTM motion is, then I recommend that assessment. The link is in the description below. And with that, we'll call it a wrap. Subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to be the first to know when the next episode drops. And I am Lillian Pierson. See you in the next episode.